Alrighty, everyone. Welcome back to a brand new episode of Paranormal Misfits Podcast. I am one half of your co-host duo, Nino Daniel.
And I'm Chrissy.
Yes, and we wanted to mention to everyone that we are a part of the You Run podcast network, where you can find interesting, spooky, dookie, not that, sorry.
Not that.
But you can find like creepy, kooky, spooky podcasts just like ours. You can check You Run out on Instagram at You Run Network. Big thanks to them. Today is a very special day on Paranormal Misfits Podcast.
It is.
We have author, director, all around like fantastic storyteller Josh Mendoza is with us. Josh, how are you today?
Well, Nino, thanks for having me on, Chrissy. I'm excited to be here and bright and early here in
Sorry,
an earlier time zone. Whoa, hang on.
Ooh, bonus.
Terrible timing. Sounds like someone opened a door in my house.
Oh no.
It's okay. It just makes for a good episode.
The sound guy's not going to like that.
Oh, it's okay.
Sorry about that. These are like my worst nightmares. The filmmaker in me, when we do these things, I'm always so stressed because I'm like, okay, how's the sound? How's this? How's that? And you know, it's never perfect. So
No.
that's life.
Yeah.
Children and dogs and wives can get in the way of perfect sound. That's why you shut the movie set down. But,
Yep.
Cool.
That's why we do a closed set for sure.
So where was I? I'm an author. I'm a filmmaker. My name's Josh Mendoza, and I'm excited to be here.
We are excited to have you.
We also want to give a special thanks to our friends over at PR by the Book and A Night Owl Media for getting myself an advanced reader copy of Shadow of the Eternal Watcher, the new novel out by Josh Mendoza. Special thanks to my friends Amber and Priscilla, who also received advanced reader copies. They were like in a group chat together and we're like, oh my god, we're like freaking out. So this is like a real treat, and thank you for just like bringing back the beauty of reading. It's like a lost art form.
Well, thank you. I mean, it's a great endeavor with a lot of talented authors out there who keep writing their stories, but on a selfish level, it means a lot to me that you said that. Thank you. I mean, when I set out to write the book, I just thought about the kid I used to be sitting cross-legged in the sci-fi section. I was like, what would be a book that he would have wanted to read?
Mm-hmm.
And so when I set out to write this book, my thought process was I want it to be a book that kid would have picked off the shelf. I want it to be elevated and well written, but I just wanted it to be a fun page turner. And those were the initial goals. And then obviously the story comes from there.
Mission accomplished.
Oh, thank you.
Literally so good. If I wasn't like reading this at like the dead of night with like busy days the next day, probably would have cleared this book in like a night.
I appreciate that. That's awesome.
Oh, so good. What, like you said, also you've done movie directing, and you're obviously an author. There's screenplay, there's novel writing. When you kind of think about storytelling, like which do you prefer, screenplays or novels?
You know, I love them all. I mean, when I first set out to do all this, when I was a young man in undergrad at Stanford, I wanted to be a novelist. That was my first goal. And I was taking a lot of short story classes, and I got into a film noir class that I just loved. And it was the first time I'd ever really thought about, okay, well, where does the camera go? Who's doing that job? And I started to think, well, I could do that job. And actually, a lot of the stories I used to write, they were sort of shot listed, essentially. They had a lot of kind of visual elements to them. I kind of came to realize later that I was sort of doing what a director does, is making camera lists. And obviously, I was trying to fit that into a short story format, which it doesn't necessarily work in. And people be like, I don't get it. What's going on in this? I'm like, oh, you got to imagine it's like spinning around him. And, you know, like so that's the way my mind works, is very visual. So now coming back, you know, I chased that for a long time. I chased the filmmaking. My first movie came out a few years back. It's called What Still Remains. It did well. And I've been trying to make the next one. And while I've been doing that, I had this idea for a big space opera and a kind of a small, gritty noir detective story. So I had those two ideas in my mind, and I thought, well, what if I mashed them up and made a different story? And that's what became this book. So when I started thinking about the script for that, I was like, this is going to be a very expensive movie, right? And and maybe it'd be a fun calling card for me to go out and pitch, and someone's like, "Wow, I really love this. Now write something else." But I don't know. I was just really excited about the story, and I didn't want to do that. I've got plenty of those scripts that no one's ever heard of that are on people's desks that they like, and then they're like, "Well, maybe we'll do something else one day." But I was like, "Well, maybe I could write the book for this, and then it would be out there and it would exist." And here we are. And I mean, it sounds simple when I say that. It took years to do it, right? And to get to this point. So it's exciting that it's here. But the cool thing about a book is obviously you held it up. I mean, there's a bunch of books behind me. They're tactile things, and we have ebooks, and that's fine. But there's something really cool about having the final
book.
media.
Yeah.
Yeah, and with the movie too. I mean, most people stream it, right? But I have DVDs and Blu-rays of it.
Mhm.
That's what's cool is when you hold it up and you're like, yeah, that's awesome. I made this.
Oh yeah, physical media is
Yeah.
amazing.
Yes.
That's a good call out. As I literally look to like the barrage of DVDs on my shelf over here, you can't see a bonus track, but
well, my kids are like, "What are these discs?
What are these?"
I'm like, "Well, we could put that magical disc in the PlayStation 5 and a
Right?
movie will play." And it's like, why do you have to add that extra step though? But actually, my daughter, I'm getting off track here, but she got really into some American Girl doll books, and one of them is a '90s character. So it's like dating me a
Wow.
lot, but it's like all these things that she loves. She's like, "Oh man, Dad, have you ever heard of the Spice Girls? Have you ever heard of No Doubt? I want to get a skateboard." And
heard of No Doubt
right?
and Spice
I'm like,
Girls.
"Oh, I've heard of No Doubt." And then we're watching a Marvel movie and No Doubt song comes on. She's like, "I've heard this before." So we actually got her for her birthday a new old CD player.
A new for her.
And then I dug out I still have all my CDs and like the giant
Yes.
thing that I used to have in my car.
Oh yeah,
And the big book. So I gave her all those, and she's got like Green Day and Weezer and not a lot of Spice Girls in that collection, but we found her a Spice Girls CD.
Very
That's
cool.
so funny. I feel
I
like we
had
all have
Spice World on VHS.
Well,
The movie.
I haven't told her there's a movie yet, so I'm gonna have to watch it one of these days.
As long as she stays kind and rewinds, I think we can make several exceptions. I mean,
Right.
I have Britney Spears' "Baby One More Time" single on cassette.
Oh my
That's
god.
awesome.
Like just to back in the
I
day
know.
when. Go ahead, sir.
No, I'm the one who interrupted you. I was just gonna say I missed those days when you could go to like Target and you'd go to Best Buy and you'd walk through the music, you'd walk through the movies. I mean, I still do it with books. I have a lot of DVDs from like shopping where I just like bought movies and then like never watched them, right? And they sit on your shelf. And then I do it with books too. I love that the media of it too, and the
to have
tactile.
it, yeah. Like there was someone who said on TikTok that like if you have a certain version of Wizard of Oz and that scene comes up with the munchkin hanging in the background, it's still a munchkin like hanging in the background, but like they've edited it when it comes on streaming and it looks like a bird flying. So like they've literally altered, like, I don't know, what I'm trying to say is for a bunch of words in a salad together, physical media is important, and I'm so sad that Best Buy and Target have now phased out their physical media.
I know, no one buys them. And as a filmmaker, an indie filmmaker, I mean, that used to be where a lot of the profits were for like these smaller budget movies. Is you would make this movie, say you made for $1 million, and it would come out in a movie theater, do it in like 2 cities, you make no money, right? And then the DVD would come out and it'd be in like the dollar bin at Best Buy, but you'd sell like 1 million copies of that disc because people would just be like, "Oh, I'll watch this. I'll pay $1. I'll pay $3." But when it's on streaming and they pay $3, I mean, like the margins have shrunk, and it wasn't really $1. It was like $5, right? Now it's like $2.99 or free, and you're getting licensed on these streaming. So it's just that pot of money shrinks too, and they call it the waterfall. So it's just it's not great for creating. I mean, when I was younger, I always talk about like Reign of Fire, right? Which is a great B movie, but has like A-list Oscar-winning movie stars in it before they were big time. I mean, they would never make that movie now, right? Because it's just like, it's either tent poles or super indie, smaller budget things. And I'm exaggerating a little bit, but I think there was like a lot more of the in-between that used to get made, and I miss those movies because they're they're not always great, but sometimes they're fun, and it gave people like me an opportunity to maybe make some art that those opportunities aren't there anymore either. So,
Mhm.
it's a double-edged sword.
Oh yeah. Actually, I wanted to ask you about What Still Remains. I
Hmm.
know that, so that's a film that you wrote and directed. It came out in 2018, and I mean, I want to know, kind of like a two-parter, like how did the story arise, and what was the biggest
Hmm.
thing from going from short films to full-length features?
Yeah, so short films are tough because that's an art form in and of itself too. And so is a short story. I mean, a lot of times, I went to USC Film School, so we made a lot of short films, and we watch everyone's films, and it's a good learning tool. But a lot of times, what people try to do is cram a feature length movie into like 10 minutes, right? So they're different. They're kind of vignettes. So when you get to stretch your legs into the feature, obviously you get to play with that 3 act structure a little more. But you might make a 5 minute movie over 4 or 5 days sometimes,
Mhm.
and then you're trying to make a 95 minute movie in like 18 days because you don't have enough money to like really spread out those time frames. So with with the feature, I mean, the story kind of came from two parts. I was pitching a what would be like a modern western, and I had this. It's a cool gunfight movie. I still have that script. It's a great script. It's called 50 Miles to Mexico, and kind of based on my roots as growing up in Arizona and a lot of those visual ideas. And I had people interested in making that movie, but we weren't raising enough money to really do that movie. And it was kind of like, well, maybe we should just make it and we'll just figure it out. But I'd done that in film school and made some bad short films. And when you don't have the money to do exactly what you want to do, I mean, I think there's levels. So it's like, okay, well, we have this much money and we can figure this out. Let's make this, and we'll make a good version of that, and we'll be creative. And then we have this much money and it's impossible to make this movie, but let's make it anyway. So we were kind of in that it's impossible to make this movie category. And I said, well, I don't want to make this movie badly. So
Mhm.
I started thinking, well, what could I? And these people wanted to back me, and they wanted to make my movie. So they were game to do something different, which was cool. So I started thinking about, well, what else could I do? And I shot a short called God's Country that's on my IMDb if you go find that. But it became a feature length script as well. That's called Dreadlands. But it's basically about a guy who goes in search of the bear that killed his wife. It's sort of Jaws with a bear meets Deliverance is how I always pitch that. It's I do. You might notice I do this a lot. I mash things together that don't seem like they go
Had
together.
no idea that's
That's my dream is doing the genre mashup. So that that was outside. I shot that in the woods, and it was beautiful. And I didn't have any money when I made that, but it looked great, and everyone was like, "Wow, this movie's great." And part of that is just because I didn't have to do anything to production design it. So I started thinking, well, what could be in the woods? And this story just of a girl living with her family, surviving in this post-apocalyptic world came to me, and that's what Still Remains is. And I didn't want to do like a zombie movie. I wanted to do, the LA Times called it like it's not 28 days later, it's 28 years later before that movie was a thing. But like, it's that maybe that's where they came up with that idea. I don't know.
maybe.
They
Hey,
read that the LA Times article. They're like, yeah, we should do that. But no, this was like the zombies are gone. Maybe. Well, you have to watch the movie, but they're the people are left, and they're surviving, and she loses her family and has to figure out how to make it in the world that's left. And she meets a lot of people along the way, and as the tagline says, people become their own kind of monsters. It's
Mhm.
she doesn't need zombies to have an adventure in these woods. But yeah, that was the litmus for it, was just trying to think to the budget too. And even when you do that, you try to write the best version of what you can. But even in that, like I had this cool thing with a pit in the movie, and we were doing that up until like the day before we shot it. And they pulled me as I was directing something else, and like, we're trying to dig this pit, and the dirt's kind of sandy, it's falling down. I don't think we can do this safely. Is the short story of that. And so we had to pivot and figure something else out. And I mean, that's filmmaking too, is you're like kind of shooting by the hip. And sometimes when you do creative things, you get limited, and sometimes when you have to think about outside the box with the money, you make something better, right? So that's what's fun about movies.
yeah.
And it's a team effort too with the movie, whereas the book is a team effort when you get to editing and you get to bringing it
Mhm.
out, but like really it's the lonely version, the author journey, right? Whereas a screenplay, you're always thinking about, well, if I got to make this XYZ, and then you start bringing in more people earlier, and a lot more people help shape it. Whereas you have to have a good script, and then you have to have good days on set, and then you have to have good post production. You have to have a good editor, you have to have good sound design. You have to, and there's a lot of ways to make it a great movie, and there's a lot of ways to screw it up and make a bad movie a lot of ways. So a few more steps in there.
Of course. You mentioned quite a bit of stuff with like novel writing having to be something that you do on your own, and then the movie portion is very much about community. I've noticed from the What Still Remains trailer and some of the themes in Shadow of the Eternal Watcher that like community is a big thing in your storytelling. Like, what is maybe a goal or a hope for like the audience to take away with that?
For me, I find myself a lot of times writing about belonging. Who are you as a person? Who are the people you surround yourself with? The ideas of family. You don't get to choose your family. That can be a good thing. It can be a terrible thing, right? And then, and I've been very lucky. I mean, I have a wonderful family I grew up with, and I've been very blessed in that way. But I don't know, my mind goes to these stories, and I think that's one of the beauties of reading. You were talking about reading as a lost art form. Is when you read a lot, it gets you out of your own headspace and into other people's headspace, and it kind of allows you to dream and live lives that you have not lived. And I think that makes you a different person, right? It makes you more empathetic. It makes you more relatable to other people. And it makes, you can't necessarily completely relate, but you can imagine. And I think that gets you closer to relating too. So for me, it's always about, I think we're all, even people like me, I just said I had a great family experience. I mean, we get isolated, we get lonely, we get in our own heads. So a lot of those themes just creep into my stories. I think Duster Rains in Shadow of the Eternal Watcher, I mean, he's at the lowest, what he thinks is the lowest point. He maybe falls a little farther in the book, but he's isolated. He's hasn't lived the life he thought he would. And then, without ruining too much, finds that there's a universe out there where he has lived the life he thought he would. And what does that do to you? Where is it you? Is it your circumstances? Like, is that in him too? Could he be that better person? And in trying to like figure that out, does he become a better person, or does he become more of a villain too? So I just think that's interesting from a character standpoint to get to kind of ski the slaloms for people. I'm zigging and zagging for people who are just listening and not watching.
I love that. He's Duster. I'm sorry, Rains. In case he's listening.
Yeah, don't call him Duster.
Oh, jeez. He's an interesting character. You wrote him, really, really well. He's funny. He's witty. But there is like this underlying soft side to him. Like, what was it for you? Like, what was the importance for you in creating a character like this with such a level of dichotomy for your story? And would it have been like a different tone, not like throughout the entire story, if Rains was, more stern and more edgy?
Yeah, and it was a balance as I was writing him too. I wanted him to sort of like straddle this line between hero and anti-hero, and is he a good guy, is he not? And there were versions where maybe I went a little too far the other way and I had to bring him back, whereas like, and I think we talked about other people. I think that's where, as an author, you let other people read it, you listen to what they say about it, and then do they like it, do they not? That's important. But like, how are they responding to certain things? And when people maybe are like, oh, I don't know, you lost me at this point. Like, that was too far. He did something that was too terrible. And like, I never wanted him to be hated, right? I wanted him to sort of be, like you said, I think you nailed it, is he wants to be a better man, but he hasn't necessarily done it up to this point in his life, in his 40 years, right? He's made some choices and some decisions that have led him down a different path. So it was definitely a balance, though. I mean, I think there were versions where he was meaner and sterner, and I don't think it would have been as fun. And like I said at the outset, you have these goals when you write it, and then sometimes you write it and characters do different things, and then going back and trying to mold it, and what was special in there that I wasn't expecting, and what maybe doesn't work, and you lose some things, and and it's always surprising too how paragraphs that weren't supposed to be together go together, and you're like, oh wow, that's really cool, and that creates a new idea and a new thought. So it is a process, and anyone out there who wants to be a writer, I mean, that first draft is never the last draft. I mean, that's the version, that's
Chrissy
the
said,
bad version. Like I finished, I'm writing something else right now, and I finally got to the end of this chapter, and I was like, okay, well, the bad version of that's done now. I'm going to keep going, and I'll be back.
Oh yeah, just like I think there's a process where like in rehearsals for like theater and movies and stuff, it's like getting out the yuck is what they call it.
Yeah.
And fully agree. I'm sure Chrissy, like you, even with me when it comes to dancing, I'm like, this ain't gonna be the final version. Like we gon' I do want to ask, like, in terms of like the process, because we're both interested in this. We're both very like timeline oriented people. From the idea of Shadow of the Eternal Watcher to like, okay, it's release day. Was it years? Was it months? Was it?
I mean, you talked about 2018. It's starting to be a long time ago. I mean, when I was first thinking about this, we were in post on my movie, so it was like 2017. So that was a concept, and I had a version done that I was pitching to people probably in 2019, 2020. You know, and sometimes you're like, okay, I'm going to get an agent out of this. I want a lit agent. I have a manager for film. I'm going to find a lit agent. So you start talking to people, and you know, there's these slush piles, and you submit these things, and someone's like, oh, I love this. Let me dig into it really deep, and like 8 months go by, and you email them. You're like, so what'd you think? Are you done with it? You get like a response. It's like, it's not for me. And you're like, okay, well, there went 8 months, right? Like you've been sitting here. So I found my publisher Inkshares, and they loved it, and they wanted to run with it, and that was exciting and a passion too. And seeing that version with them was great, but also that was a long process too, because then they give you notes, and that takes months, right? So 6 months go by, and they're like, hey, what do you think of this and this and this? And they send you like your list. And you know, I remember reading an interview, I think it was Stephen King, who said one of the greatest things I learned as a writer was I could say no. So I went back to him and was like, hey, this is the story I'm trying to tell. These aren't going to work for me. I want to go more in this direction. They're like, okay, well, what about these notes then? And then you go write those notes. Then you come back, and then you go through this process with your editor. And then you go through the process with line editing, where you're just looking at commas, and you're looking at, and I'm a pretty technical writer too, but they find them anyway, and they fix them, and they're changing them, and they're like, hey, the Chicago Manual of Style says you should have done this. So you're changing all that, and then you go back, and then they're setting the book, and the book gets set, and there's mistakes from that transcription where it's not even your mistakes anymore. It's like, you know, that gets into like coding errors, right? Where it's like, oh, well, like that, this messed up. And like in my book, there was like every ellipsis had I think it was a T added before it. And so like, and that drove me crazy, because I'm like, I didn't even write that. Like, it's not in the book, but like it was in like some early like arcs, and I'm like, I can't live with that. That needs to be out of there. Like,
oh my God.
But you know, so it's just a process is my point. And it takes, I mean, from getting to the publisher to coming out is probably 1.5 to 2 years almost.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Oh wow.
Because you're on their schedule. And then it was like, okay, well, you're done. The last year was sort of just like chilling and doing like little things. And it's like, this is when we think we should release it, is you could release it next January or next February. So like, you know, you keep getting pushed out. So, I mean, it's a slow publishing is a slow process, which naively, when I was in the film world, I'm like, oh, I'll write this book, and you know, movie, you got to raise money, and then you got to wait for post, and you're doing all this stuff. It takes forever. I write a book, it'll just come out. And I mean, you can self-publish it, could just come out, but but there's a process to everything, and there's a business to it too. So just trying to fit it all your art into these little boxes can be a thing. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, no, you did. I feel like I just ran a marathon. I'm over here like a 2-year process.
Yeah.
Can you tell that to my like teachers in college who are like, this is due by next week? No, it's not. Like,
well, the first version was due next week. It's the final version that takes a while. And you know, it's I don't think that changes either. I have a lot of friends who are authors, and they just take a long time to come out, and it's just part of it. And as you get more well-known, I think you get to skip a few steps in line. You know, you might not be waiting
as well
for Jimmy. You might not be waiting for Jimmy John's book to get finished. It might be like, well, you get to slot in front of Jimmy John because you've written a New York Times bestseller. But there's still that process of getting it to finish. And that's why sometimes too, you're like, when's my next favorite book come out? It's like, it'll be out in 2029. You're like, what? Like, that's like 4 years from now. But At least it has a date.
I was
That's
like,
true.
because listen, I'm gonna get to the question at the end, but I fully expect a follow up to this story on my desk in May.
Well, spoiler alert! That chapter I mentioned, it's for the next one, so it's coming. It's coming. I'm working on it.
This one,
Hey everyone, Chrissy here. I want to turn you guys on to another one of our You Run podcast members. It's the Girl in the Game Movie podcast. You got two special hosts, Beck and Jay, and every Tuesday they drop a new episode where they pick a movie to talk about. So they're not just horror based and they're not just pop culture based. They cover all, including limited series TV shows such as The Fall of the House of Usher. And they discuss everything they like and don't like about the movies, the cast, the production, and more. You can check them out on YouTube and Spotify, and you can also check them out on yourunpodcast.com.
there was so many like elements. Oh, I have so many things on my mind. I'm so sorry. I talk like a million miles a minute. You would think I would do better at cardio, but I don't. But when you talk about like blending genres, I think there's also elements where I see you blend writing styles, and there's no denying that portions of, for me at least, Shadow of the Eternal Watcher is written as if you're watching a movie. More specifically, not to give anything away, towards the end when they're leaving that hangar and they go like and have this like intergalactic battle, and there's
spoiler alert.
I didn't say anything. I mean, I didn't.
Kidding.
It
is a big space opera. I mean, that's why I wanted to write.
Yeah.
So
I was like, wait, I didn't say anything.
It's a space opera for sure.
Josh, I almost peed myself. Oh my god.
I'm teasing.
So there was I noticed that there was this like cinematic screenplay type of writing, because there was very like little dialogue between the characters and it was all super descriptive. Tell me, like, do you have a vision for Shadow of the Eternal Watcher to be a movie based on like those little moments of how it's written?
Well, like I said at the top, I mean, my mind is very visual, so I think it lends itself to filmmaking. So definitely in any action sequence I write, I mean, I block it out. Like I know where people are standing. I know where, like I'm like I have those cockpits thought out. I have the shots for sure, but I didn't write it to be a movie. I wrote it could be a movie, and I think I wrote it to be a book. But definitely my writing style lends itself to that format, and I think some people love that and some people don't. That's fine. But with the screenplay, though, it's interesting because you don't really get to describe that much. I mean, you have to be very utilitarian in what you do. So, like, the book is kind of fun because you're like, oh, I get all this space. But that can be a trap, too, where you're like, maybe that space battle turns into, like, it's 150 pages and, like, no one wants to read that, right? And I'm like, I start talking about, like, the culture of that planet over there or whatever. But like, you know, you have to, I think the screenwriting helped me with making it keep moving. I think about everything like what's my in, what's my out, and what's the point for the characters in this chapter or scene when it's a screenplay. So always be moving the characters forward, always be moving the plot forward is the main purpose. Like sometimes I personally get a little bored in books where I think it's world building, but like it's just for the world building, and I don't really enjoy that. I would rather have world building through character and through story. So that's just my personal take on it. So with the film part, I mean, that's just the way my mind works, and I think it can help too, though, when you visualize what's happening, keep you honest too, and like make sure it is realistic too. Like so. I know what the blocking is of those characters when they're doing stuff, or like when they're running from the gunfire. I don't just write the gunfire. I like imagine the mountain and I have it all. But I have it all thought out.
You even said like what direction the bullets are going and like who they're hitting, and like I really like when, and I'm putting this out there just as like like manifestational kind of thing. I want this to be a movie because I'm so curious as to how the opening, like the prologue is what it's called, I think. How that was so well written.
Thank you.
That was descriptive. I was like, oh, we're here, we're in this world. And that's all I'm going to say to the audience, because Shadow of the Eternal Watcher is available right now for purchase.
Go find it.
No, we got Chrissy. What you got?
So Nino was explaining the book to me. I apologize, I haven't read it yet.
That's okay. It's on your homework assignment.
It
You have
is
till
on my
next week.
homework assignment, believe me.
Oh God, trauma already like in my mind. I'm like, no, there's a book report.
I'll take my book report in my email box. 8 pages, double spaced, 1-inch margins,
God.
please.
Oh God. And make sure you send him the turnitin.com link, because God
right. But so personal question is, especially based off of the fact that like there's like a shadow or a
Shade.
shade
Like a
to every
shade.
person. I'm used to
Yeah.
like I was thinking in like the sense of like spirituality, where they always talk about like your shadow side versus your light side.
Yeah.
But do you feel that there is different us in alternative spaces? Like alternative universes.
I like the idea of that. I think it's fun, right?
Mhm.
And it's been done a lot lately, right? So with my book, I was trying to do something a little different. So it's not that everyone has a shade. This world is like evolved so differently that it's almost unrecognizable from our own. But
Yeah.
where the magic happens and some of the mystical fantasy elements of the sci-fi world happen are when there are doubles, and it's a rare thing. But that kind of creates the synergistic ability to bend space-time between these two universes. So I thought that was just something different and fun versus like there's a million universes. There's only these two that we know of where humanity has survived, and even in that, there's only like maybe 10,000 duplicates. It's like a very small, like I forget the math. It's in the book somewhere. I'd have to go back and do the math. I don't actually remember, but it's like a microcosm of the billions of people who live in our world have a duplicate, but that's where the magic happens. And I thought that was cool and fun and something I hadn't read before. And you're always trying to like, how do I take something that's been done and do something different? But I think you hit on it too, is like what makes us unique when you have a duplicate, right? And when that duplicate seems to be having a much better life than you too, and you're like, well, what the heck was I doing like this whole time?
I would beat the shit out of mine.
Well, and I think Mr. Raines kind of wants to, right? He's like, he's gonna take the reins, right?
Literally.
Yeah. So
that's funny.
I think it's just, to me, the doppelganger. I mean, it was in German cinema. It's always been an idea that humanity has like kind of thought about like what makes us unique, what makes us special, and what demons are out there lurking in the night too.
Oh yeah, as I kept reading it, I was like, oh, this is giving like Jordan Peele's Us, and then it was giving like I had those like sci-fi intergalactic things. I was like, this is very like Marvel and Star Wars to me. And then there's those like escape, like all of the. I'm not gonna say what they escaped. I was just kind of, but I'm not gonna. But it was just there's sci-fi, there's horror, there's like all these really, really cool elements to it.
Thank you.
It was very well amalgamated, which is a word I used studying for the GRE.
And you did it.
I failed miserably. I went crazy, isn't it? Which is why that's why I'm a podcast co-host and not a psychologist.
You can still go. Isn't there there's another one you can take. Just go do it again.
And I work for a university, so I'm gonna hop in.
Yeah.
One of the sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to talk about standardized testing. Let's keep going.
Oh, let's, because oh my gosh, maybe we'll just have you on.
Oh my god, standardized testing could have a whole tangent.
Let me talk about the LSAT and the GRE.
Let me talk about those like different. Anyway, see, now you got me doing. You in Shadow of the Eternal Watcher, you happen to write a lot about conspiracy theory related things, and we're big on conspiracy theories here, like other realms, twin theories, underground cities, lizard people, and just like, would you say that Shadow of the Eternal Watcher is an opportunity for the audience to potentially be more aware of certain theories, or is it simply storytelling to you?
I like the fun conspiracy theories, like there's an alligator in your toilet kind of stuff. I mean, I think sometimes it goes into I know it goes into a dark realm of people putting tinfoil hats in their heads and thinking everything's there's spy lasers going to shoot you, and you know, so that's not where I want to go with this. It's more the fun, it's more the interesting, and
Mm-hmm.
I think sometimes I do think there's magic out there in our world, our
Sure.
universe, and I think there are aliens out there. I think there's just too many stars and too many planets. I don't know if they're coming in giant cool spaceships that can like fold space and gonna take over, but I think there's probably a world out there not too dissimilar from ours that's floating around a star somewhere, and I think there's probably a lot of them when you do the math on that. So to me, it's just, are there, you know, we have this world that we view, we think this is the way it is, and then could there be other layers beneath it? And I mean, I always love Lord of the Rings, right? Because it's like, well, this is the ages that, because that's supposed to be our planet. I think people forget that sometimes. It's like, this is like the second age of our Earth. Like, you know, like we've all forgotten it because we're like in the age of man now. But like there used to be hobbits and dwarves and elves in Tolkien's world. I just think that's fun, like to kind of like imagine the myths, and you know, because Tolkien was playing with myths, so conspiracy theories are sort of the myths of our day, right? So just trying to have fun, and I think that in this book too, everything is not as it seems. It's very important. So it's just trying to set up too that like, hey, we're talking about some weird conspiracy theories. Some of them are probably not real. In the book, like he's flipping through like an old it's not called the National Enquirer, but it's like an old black and white rag. And I just remember as a kid standing in line at the grocery store, like looking at like baby vampire found, and like I don't know, that just really made a big impression on
John Benet Ramsey's killer discovered 17 times the next 10 years. Apparently.
But I always would gravitate towards the weird, you know, like chupacabras, that kind of thing. So like to me, like this world is sort of like, are there monsters? Are the monsters robots? Like what's out there? And like when I was, you know, you brought up Marvel, Star Wars, and I love Star Wars, I love Star Trek, but I always kind of go back further. I always loved like Twilight Zone, and like Twilight Zone is like the original alternate reality universe for me. Like we've stepped through this door and it's like our own, but it's different. So for me, it was Twilight Zone and kind of playing with those ideas as well.
Very cool.
Oh, I love. Ooh. Okay. So what you're saying is, no, I'm kidding.
Let's do a little deep dive.
Right. Let's everyone grab your floaties. I mentioned in the top of the episode, I had two of my friends, Amber and Priscilla, who also received advanced reader copies, and the feedback I'm getting is amazing. They are big fans of it. It's a page turner. I think Amber got through it in like a day.
That's awesome.
Which I was like, how do you have time for that? I'm napping. Like, no disrespect. I'm a very tired person. It also doesn't help that today is literally day one of Ramadan.
Some people can like look at a page and like read more than one word at a time. I'm not that guy. I'm like, I read every word.
Listen, I gotta read.
But some people like, they can speed read and they get so much of it, and they're getting 85% of the words. It's kind of incredible, but I'm not that guy.
No.
And I talked over you about Ramadan. I'm sorry.
Oh no, you're fine. No, oh my gosh, no. It's just day one of it, so I'm gonna be naturally tired today.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
And you know, I know other people do different lines of things. I like to read my lines thoroughly, as some people like to do different things with their lines. But Priscilla and Amber wanted to know about one specific character. Juan. By far one of the most incredible characters, one of the most heroic in my opinion. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, read the damn book, folks. It's available now. And if you don't get it, I'm sending La Llorona after you personally. I will text her on Ouija board. But
it is available wherever you get your books.
Wherever
you can go into your indie bookstore and tell them to order a copy. It's on Audible. It's wherever you get your audiobooks.
Get the physical book. It's better for you. Okay,
but if you only do audiobooks, I'm okay with you listening. But you should get the book too.
Get the book. It's, I mean, in a clinical study.
Read along.
Yeah, right. No, seriously. That's how I learned like Nicki Minaj verses. I read as she raps. But they wanted to know, like, with Juan, there is maybe it's because we all kind of like group chatted and picked up on it and everything, but does Juan's companionship with Rains have anything to do with possibly fulfilling the void of Rains and the Iraqi boy. And that's all I will say.
Yeah, I think certainly Reigns has an affinity for Juan. I think he reminds him of a certain someone, most definitely. And I think most of what Reigns does is trying to atone for past sins and past transgressions. And he goes about that by doing terrible things too. He's fixing cases when he's in the LAPD. He's trying to frame people. He knows they're guilty though. He knows they're guilty, but that's not the way the system works though, right? So he's working outside the law, and he definitely has a lot of sins to atone for. And I think in Juan, he sees the innocence and the brilliance of him, and also the street smarts of him. Juan's just kind of this cool, I don't know. Juan's me. Juan's my kids. I love Juan too. But and I always fought for Juan. You know, sometimes people are like, I don't know, Juan, what's his deal? I'm like, well, Juan stays in the book, darn it.
Thank God he did
in
too.
The picture.
That's all
the
I'll
kids
say.
in the picture. No, but Juan, I think Juan and Carla too are like, they see the bad in Reigns and they see the good in Reigns, and they want him to be the better man that he should be. Yeah. And he lets them down, and he doesn't let them down, right? And I think Juan too has this vision, as most teenage boys maybe and girls do, of like, goodness shall prevail. And as they go on this adventure, I think he's very confident in that. And I don't think it necessarily works out in all ways. And I think that's going to sculpt him moving forward. But Juan, I will tell you, Juan is going to be a very big part of the second book and be a driving force behind it without ruining too much. So, yeah,
we'll save that for the last question.
The kid stays in the picture.
Yes. There was so many times where I was like reading it and I'm like, where the fuck is Juan? Like, where the fuck did he go?
I know, and you're going to be thinking that in the second book.
I remember I was like DMing you.
That's a detective story of it, right?
Oh, yeah. Gosh.
Well, that's the fun of it too. Is like, and it means a lot to me that he spoke to you, because he speaks to me too. And you know, when you write these things, you don't necessarily know. You write for yourself. At least I do. I ran for myself. I'm like, what would I love? What's a book I'd love? And then you start thinking about, okay, how do I reach other people? Because I write these things not for myself. At the end of the day, I want people to read them. I feel like I have stories to tell, and I feel like I want to entertain and make people think and cry and all the emotions. Right? I want everyone to feel them, and that's why I do these things. So when you get it out there, you don't know how people are going to respond though either. So it's exciting when someone says it spoke to them and they liked it, and you know you got to grab onto the positive, because there's so much negative in our world too.
Mm-hmm.
Very. And it's ours and ours too. You definitely, you read the bad review of your movie or whatever, or your book, and you're like, oh, that. And then there's the 400 good reviews, and you're like, oh, this bad one. What is this about? Like, and I've moved past that as I get older. But when I was younger, I definitely was checking constantly. So I try not to do that anymore. But yeah, no, Juan definitely, like I said, I mean, I was always the kid, and my kids are like, my son especially is like the kid who's like taking the toaster apart. And I was always very, very, and if you'd met me when I was a kid, you probably would have been like, oh, this guy's going to be like an engineer. He's going to build something. We think that about my son too, but I was always a Renaissance man going every which way. So that's kind of how I see Juan too, is he's good at a lot of things, and sometimes people say, oh, well, he was too good at stuff. And I'm like, well, I'm really good at stuff too. It's fine. Yeah. I think that's true in life too. Sometimes people are talented, and we push them in the right directions, and they can learn and do a lot of incredible things. And I think that's Juan's definitely, he's not the main character, but he might be the hero, right?
he's a very cool character. And I know Chrissy wants to ask some stuff too. I'm so sorry. I just have so many questions. There was a lot of times where I was like, literally, I think I like had to pull the book away from my face because my jaw dropped at least like a good like 5 or 6 times. I remember DMing you. I was like, I want to know more about Badger. I want to know what's happening. And then when it like got to the point where we find out about these characters, I was like, oh, son of a
that's great.
Like, it was very like, like, we're good. Like, I literally readjusted in my seat, and I'm like, I know it's midnight. I know I gotta wake up at 5:30, but no, I don't. Like,
Well, I love that. Thank you. No, and like I said, I just wanted it to be fun. I really did. I wanted it to be, high concept sci-fi adventure that like has a lot of twists and turns, and I think it has those. So it means a lot that it spoke to you, and I hope it speaks to a lot of you out there listening too.
which, by the way, in our show notes, you can click the Amazon link for Shadow of the Eternal Watcher and purchase the book immediately. You can also purchase our merch and give us 5-star reviews and do things that are free. There's free support out there. Don't be stingy, okay?
Yeah.
Listen,
5-star reviews. Maybe go on Amazon for the
go
book.
on Amazon.
Right.
Give it a 5-star
to
review for
Goodreads.
Josh Mendoza and his hard work. Hello, like stop being stingy with your 5G like Google Fiber internet. Give us some of that.
Well, that's the world we live in. We need reviews. That's true in art. That's true in business. People look at those reviews and they're like, oh well, I guess this made people like this. Maybe I'll listen, or I'll watch, or I'll read, or I'll call that plumber, right? And so if you have good experiences, I mean, I don't like to give reviews actually, but I try when something speaks to me, I try to go give them that 5-star and help their business or help their art. Yeah.
Chrissy,
All right. So, LA, California is a hot spot for the setting and the scene. It's also a hot spot where people are open about their feelings on like politics, science, religion, government, all that. So with so many pieces of your novel honing on standing up to the regime, keeping your individuality, overcoming societal adversities, talk about how the setting of the novel and its themes kind of correlate.
Yeah, so I mean, when I was writing, I was in LA, so it's in LA, right? But,
cool.
No,
and that's the answer.
No, I'm joking. No, well, I mean, but really, it grows from original ideas, right? I wanted to make a detective story. I mean, in classic noir detectives, I mean, they're in LA, they're working the streets, and I just thought it would be fun to like get to like write about Wilshire Boulevard and La Cienega, go in the Hollywood Hills. Like I live there, and I'm like, all right, I want to do all these things, and it's kind of the classic tropes, right? Like you think of the old Humphrey Bogart movies, and you think of these Dashiell Hammond novels, and all these different things. They're running through the woods, and you read those books, you're like, there's not woods. We're in LA, and there are woods, and there are woods. There are canyons, and there are Malibu, especially back then in the 40s and the 50s. I can only imagine what it was like when you could get on Mulholland Drive and just like go to the ocean, and there was nothing out there. And now there's a lot of houses out there, but no, but I think, I mean, a lot of sci-fi, I mean, a lot of the greats, I mean, they address, I mean, you think of Orwell, you think of these different, they're talking about what humanity has a tendency to do. And I think we see it in our everyday lives is we like strong men and women. We like charismatic leaders. We like to follow them, and we fall into these traps. And I think we see it happening in real life, and we see it in our fiction needs to reflect that too. And so to me, individuality is so important, and we're Americans and we love our liberty here. So it's, I think people should be free to be the people they want to be. So I think the quest for Rains is he's never felt like he belongs. And then like, I mean, I don't want to get too deep into politics, but he's a cisgender white guy, right? So he should belong, but he doesn't feel like he does. He has trauma, and he has mental issues. And I think that's the thing is we put ourselves in these boxes. And I think when you're celebrating your differences, that's beautiful and that's great. But I think at the end of the day, we're all people and we're all very similar. And I spoke at this at the top. I mean, when you read books, you try to get in other people's heads, and you just see we're all just people, and we're all figuring it out. And we're all on a journey. And, I just think we can have our opinions, but we have to like lead with love, and we have to lead with kindness. And I don't think we're doing that like we should. And we teach it a lot to our children, and we talk about it in our different religions and our different our cultural expectations, but we're not practicing it all the time. And I think we need to. And these people, as long as people aren't hurting other people, they should live the lives they want to live. That's my opinion. But
honestly, same.
Absolutely.
That and just like keep your hygiene. That's like a personal thing for me.
Please
like
take showers.
Please
Soap,
bathe.
soap's important.
Like,
And I think too, with the internet, the us versus them mentality. I mean, I have beautiful neighbors who I disagree with wholeheartedly on so many topics, but they are good people. They just want to live their lives. And I think we just need to talk to each other and remind each other that, like, hey, we're all spinning through the universe on this blue orb together. Like, I think we're on our computers. We're like, oh my God, they're all out to get me, this group or that group, and they're evil, and they're not evil. I mean, I think, like, when we start thinking other people are evil, people start doing evil things to beat the evil. And that's in this book
to
too,
like beat
right?
the punch, right? Like,
yeah, it's like, well, I got to do terrible things to, like, make sure I save the world, but, like, we're really just making it worse. And I think that plays a lot in this book. Is like, what choices do you make? Do the ends justify the means? And I don't think they do, right? And I think that has consequences in this book, and it has consequences in the real world too.
Okay.
I love how you said that. That was profound. Truly. Have you ever thought about being an author or like a screenplay writer? Like,
well, I'm dabbling in it.
yeah.
I'm dabbling.
Give it a whirl. Like, see what happens. You know what I mean? I love it. I will say, just to kind of get us into like our wrap up for today, you do leave us. And I said I was going to save this question for last. Josh Mendoza, you leave us at the edge of our freaking seat. So, when's the next one?
Always leave them wanting more.
Is it tomorrow? Do I get like a unpublished manuscript tomorrow? What's coming up for Rains and his crew? I'm
hard at work. I mean, I wrote a couple thousand words yesterday. So, I mean, for those who don't know, a book is 80,000 words, give or take. I think this one's like 87 or 90. So, I don't write I always try to break it up into little achievable goals. Shoot for 500. So, I should have a draft in like 3 to 5 months, I'd say, and then start reworking it, and then start the process of trying to get to come out. So I think we're a couple years away, but it's coming. And now that I know it's a real, I waited on writing the next one. I had the next one in my mind, and I was kind of like, oh, am I going to change it? Is someone going to die? And then I've written this whole book, and they were like the main character, the secondary character. So I was like waiting to see where I went with it once it was finished. So now I almost feel like I got the green light. And I was like, well, shoot, I better write the other one. I should have just already done it. But but that lights the fire too. And I've been working on some other stuff. And my kids keep telling me I need to write like a kid's book. So I read to them a lot. So I've got a middle grade young adult kind of sci-fi magic adventure in my mind that I may start working on as well. Yeah, that'll be the PG version of this.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Chrissy, do you have any last minute questions or just anything that's been on your mind throughout this chat today?
No, I can't wait to read it though. Like, I'm going out today.
Thank you,
shopping.
Chrissy. I love it. Well, let me know what you think when you get to it. I love to hear from people. I mean, people can find me on my website, joshmendoza.com. I'm on social, Mendoza Strikes. If you read it and you love it, I'd love to hear what you thought. And if you didn't like it, keep that to yourself. But, no, I'm kidding. No. You're entitled to your opinions, but
that's right. Yeah. We'll have all of your socials linked in the show notes, and people can follow along and look back at some of the things that you've done and just generate an appreciation for the way that you tell stories. It was such an incredible book.
Well, thanks. It means a lot, and it's exciting. It's out there, and it's kind of like you said, it's lit the fire to get the next one out too. So it's coming.
So if Chrissy has a book report due to you next week, when's the manuscript due for us for this?
Like I said, I think well, it sounds like you're volunteering to be a beta reader, so I may be coming for you.
That's crazy. Listen, you really taught me throughout this.
Can you keep a secret? You're going to be like on your podcast, like, I read the second book.
No. You have no idea. Like, there are things that are going on with other things that I'm doing that Chrissy will never know about until it's ready.
I love it.
I'm also legally obligated to shut up. So it's weird.
I love it.
But no, this was such an incredible book. Thank you for just coming on and talking about all of the wonderful things that you do, that you are, and your take on just life, and how there's so much community, individuality embedded into this book. Like, again, I'm urging everyone listening, Jesus for the love, like, go and order and purchase this book, whatever format, if it's Audible, if it's Kindle, Nook, whatever, just, or, you know,
It is all
do
the
what I do.
things.
All the
It's
things.
available where, you know, like I said earlier, I was kind of joking, but if you have an indie bookstore you love, you can go in and order it from them. They can get it.
Yeah.
If you like to listen on audiobooks, it's on Audible, but it's available in a lot of places. There's a lot of places to get audiobooks.
Yeah.
So it's all those. It's on Amazon. It's on Barnes & Noble. It's on all the things. So,
Yes.
yeah, I'd love it if you got a copy and read it.
Absolutely. And one more time for those of us watching the YouTube version of this, the book is Shadow of the Eternal Watcher by Josh Mendoza. It looks just like this. It's literally, this is the book. I'm holding it. Haha. So be sure to check it out. A big thanks to our friend Josh Mendoza for coming on today. Huge thanks to You Run Podcast. Huge thanks to PR by the Book, Priscilla and Amber. Chrissy, any shout outs for you before we wrap up?
No, I'm good. You're good. You're solid.
You hit them.
Josh, do you have any shout outs you want to give before we wrap up?
I just want to say thanks for having me. It was a pleasure. You guys are fun, and I love talking the book with you. And I'll have to come back when the second one's coming out.
Oh, awesome.
Have to, or like immediately will be invited today. That's weird.
I love it.
Like,
I'm required. It's
now a requirement.
reading, and now it's required guest host.
Yes, absolutely. Alrighty, folks, we're gonna wrap up in a second, then hang out with Josh for a moment after. But thank you for joining us on this episode of Paranormal Misfits Podcast. I know it sucks that you have to leave. Oh, listen, we don't want you to leave, but since you have to, you might as well creep out. Bye.